وعلى أشرف المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه بارك وسلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما، يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك، آمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Did you have a bit of a break?
Yes, it is good.
Okay, good, alhamdulillah. Okay, so we're on Surah Naba. Let me take off this WhatsApp. Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are continuing with Surah Naba, inshallah. So it begins with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yatasa'alun amma, about what yatasa'alun anin nabi al-azim, about the Naba, the news al-azim, the great news. Alladhi hum fihi mukhtalifun, alladhi, those whom they are fihi, regarding it, mukhtalifun, they are differing about it. كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون. كلا, may, certainly, سيعلمون, they will come to know. ثم, then, nay, لكلا, nay, certainly, سيعلمون, they will come to know. One of the students, mashallah, emailed me with regard to these verses to ask about alternative tafsirs about these verses. And so I had to look at some tafsirs. So if you can just take a step back in terms of when we make tafsir of a verse, what is the usual methodology of making tafsir? So I think it's important in terms of understanding how we go about it. So obviously on the most basic level, we're going to have to understand what the words mean. What does kalla mean? What does sahyi mean? What does ya'lamun? What does thumma, kalla, and saya'lamun? So now you have to understand what the words mean and understand its basic meaning. And then when the words allude to something or someone or some event which is not exactly clear, like for example in this case here, they will come to know, it doesn't say what they will come to know. The maf'ulun bihi is omitted. That's the first thing. The maf'ulun bihi saya'lamuna madha, what do they come to know? It's implied in the verse. The second thing is what does the thumma mean? Is it there for another occasion? Is it there for another group of people? Is it there for emphasis? So how do we go about it? So generally with tafsir is going to be two approaches. So the one approach, which is the let's say maybe like a starting point approach, is tafsir bil riwaya. So tafsir bil riwaya is that we will consult a tafsir book, like a tafsir bil riwaya book, and riwaya means transmission. Can you guys hear me? It's very soft. The sound should be fine. It looks like
I can hear more than not clearly.
Okay, so Mariam, I think maybe just turn off the mic, inshallah. Okay, so the first thing is we'll consult a tafsir book. So a tafsir book will have narrations from the Prophet ﷺ about the verse. It will have narrations from the Sahaba or from the Tabi'in or students of the Sahaba about their verse, and it will quote their views. So if you're going to check a tafsir bil riwayah, you're typically going to check probably the most famous one is Tabari's a tafsir, and also maybe famous among English speakers is Ibn Kathir. So you can check there for tafsir bil riwayah. The only riwayah I found, I think, from Dahak was that his tafsir was that kalla saya'lamun actually refers to two, thumma kalla saya'lamun refers to two groups of people. So his riwayah, the riwayah from Dahak is going to be that that the first group of people are actually the munafiqun. Kalla nay saya'lamun, the munafiqun will come to know. Thumma, then, kalla nay saya'lamun, the Muslimun will come to know. So so that's going to be the one type of tafsir. So I didn't find much riwayah about it. And then there's tafsir bi ra'i. Ra'i means scholarly opinion. So scholarly opinion means that you open a tafsir book of mufassirun who are post the tabi'i era. You open of Fakhruddin al-Razi or of Ibn Ashur or of Baghawi or any of the mufassirun, and then they would give you an opinion on what they think this verse means. For example, I was reading Ibn Ashur. So Ibn Ashur's tafsir is kalla sayalamun, that they will come to know. In his tafsir is that they will come to know that first sayalamun actually refers to the qabr. And the sister specifically asked me, can it refer to the qabr? So kalla sayalamun, his tafsir is it refers to the qabr because the qabr is like the first station of the year after. The Prophet ﷺ says that the qabr will be a rawda min riyadul jannah, jinan, a garden from the gardens of paradise, or khufarin min khufarin niran, or a pit from the pits of hellfire. So in other words, there will be a reward in the qabr and there will be punishment in the qabr. So the kalla saya'lamun actually refers to the qabr, and his tafsir is that the second kalla is actually for emphasis on the first tafsir. And then there are other mufassirun who say it refers to two events. The one is going to be at resurrection time, and the other one is when they see the punishment. So those are all going to be different tafsirs. And then finally, I say like beyond tafsir also, there are also let's say a person's own insights or conclusions on the verse. And the insights and conclusions for me are valid in terms of understanding if they meet a certain number of conditions. So the first condition is that they obviously should accord to what the language is saying. So the person's personal view should accord to to what the language is saying. The second thing is that a person's view shouldn't go against any of the like contradict existing authoritative views. And the last thing is that a person's view should accord with the general teachings of Islam. So if someone, obviously I haven't read all the tafsir, so this view might exist. So if someone had to come to view and say that I think that kalla sayalamun is the qabr, and thumma kalla sayalamun is qiyamah. So we ask the question, does that contradict any existing views? And the answer would be no. In other words, when a mufassir gives a view or narration that the one means Muslimun and the one means Kafirun, that is a possibility of the verse. It's not negating any other possibility. And does it accord with the general teaching of Islam? Definitely. That people's fate will become to known in the qabr, and their fate will become to known on the day of Qiyamah. So those views would be valid, and there would probably be mufassirs who have held those views. So it was a long explanation. I don't know if it made sense, but just in terms of how we approach tafsir. So the three levels was basically that you approach tafsir bi riwayah, number one, and then number two is that you approach tafsir bi ra'i, scholarly opinion, and number three is a person does have your personal views, and I think there must be space for personal views. And the personal view is not saying that I say that tafsir means this. You can say the personal view is that it's a personal insight or a personal reflection that you have on the verse, and those are also valid, as long as you know what you're doing, if that makes sense. Okay. Any questions on tafsir itself quickly before we carry on?
Sheikh, kalla, which is a negation, is it the negation of the topics that they were discussing or their opinions of what those topics were? What is the negation relating to?
Okay, so kalla it can be a negation and can also be a point of emphasis, but because the kalla here is in the place of a jawab, of a response, Allah is responding to a certain phenomena, it's in the form of negation, and the negation is their questioning of qiyamah. Yatasa'alun, they're questioning in a mocking way. Is Allah really going to make these bones of dust into real life? And they're differing with each other. So the negation is basically their negation of qiyamah, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question on tafsir in general? Or in methodology or sources or anything? It's important to know about the person who wrote the tafsir. So generally, it's important to know about the person who wrote the tafsir. However, for example, let's say a person with Shia inclinations writes a tafsir. if the personal Shia inclinations is a specialist in language and he writes about Nahu and Sarf, just because the person has a Shia background, I'm not going to negate the tafsir, if that makes sense. Because the content of what the person is writing does not negate the, it's not impacted by the variance in belief or in approach, if that makes sense. So, for example, I think I think Zamakhshari was a Mu'tazili. Zamakhshari was, I think, was a Mu'tazili. I might be wrong, but I think he was, and he's considered to be the most authoritative in terms of linguistics of the Quran. So even though he has something in Aqidah which we might not agree with, because the specialist in language, we're going to take from his language ability. So definitely, and I think the approach of Islamic studies is generally is that uh, you take from many sources, obviously within the confines of authentic and traditional scholarship and so on. But the Muslim legacy has always been to take from the Greeks and take from the Persians and take from many people and kind of format it within uh, a coherent worldview within Islam. And that's why we're having all these vaccine debates. But let's not get into that now. Um, but if you are thinking about the vaccine debates, I would recommend that you follow Isnad Academy of Mala Irshad. He's hosting a number of programs with Mala Taha and specialists, which I think are very credible and have decent and reasonable authority on the issue with regard to the Islamic point of view. But I don't get into it here in this on this platform, inshallah. There are other platforms for that. But again, the point being is that we take from knowledge from many sources. It's like a fallacy to say that Quran and Hadith contains all knowledge. It's not true, and it's never been. That's never been the approach. It contains essential foundational knowledge for one's salvation, but in terms of matters of life, of medicine, of health, of economics, of commerce, of law, of manufacture, of technology, there are obviously an infinite amount of facts and information outside the body of Quran and Hadith, and those are all absorbed into the Islamic worldview and synthesized within the Islamic worldview. So sometimes there's like a very reductionist approach towards our science, which is not consistent with our legacy. Our legacy has always been vast and encompassing, and never been reductionist and just saying it's only that and nothing else. So that's not part of our legacy. When I say our legacy, I mean the legacy of Islamic scholarship in terms of if it's read objectively. Good. Any other questions? Okay, let's carry on, inshallah.
The ninth ayat, Naumakum Subata. If you were to change it to a dua form, are you likely to say Allahumma ja'alni naumi subata? Would that be right?
So the word subat means to be cut off. So I'm trying to think of whether the word subat is an appropriate word for a dua, because it's more like a let's call it like it's describing a phenomena that when you sleep, subata means the same as qata'a, which means to cut off. So like to make it dua, oh Allah, make my sleep a cut off. I think it's better to use another word like, oh Allah, give me like sakina in my sleep, or salama in my sleep, or afia, well-being in my sleep, instead of subata, if that makes sense. Because it means I cut off, so it wouldn't really be a dua word, if you know what I mean. It doesn't have like it's just describing the phenomena and saying that sleep is a means of cutting off. It's not necessarily saying it's a peaceful sleep or so on. Okay. So then the verse carries on, Alam naj'al al-arda mihada wal jibala awtada wa khalaqnakum azwaja wa ja'alna nawmakum subata wa ja'alna al-layla libasa. You find a lot of ja'ala here. Naj'al al-arda mihada. جعلنا نومكم سباتا جعلنا الليل لباسا جعلنا النهار معاشا. But when it comes to azwaja, Allah says وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. So it doesn't use خَلَقْنَا. Allah didn't say أَلَمْ نخلق الأرض مهادا وخلقنا نومكم سباتا. Allah used جعلنا. So why do you think Allah used جعلنا for ard and for naum and for layl and for nahar, and Allah used خلقناكم أزواجا for people? What's the difference between خلق and جعل? Anyone?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I would say that ja'alana is what man could do, whereas khalaqa is what Allah could create. So the two actually have different meanings in that sense. And I think Allah is
Okay.
highlighting the fact that man is unable to create what Allah
Okay.
does.
But would man be able to make the night dark and the day bright?
No, even though you might have a light, it will still be night. And so
Okay.
the night would
Okay.
be there because Allah
Okay.
has said it will be night.
Okay. So I think you're on a track, inshallah. Let's discuss it. Why else?
Could it be, Maulana, linked to animate and inanimate objects?
I'm trying to see if it's consistent. Okay, possibly. Okay. What I'm looking for is not necessarily the object Allah is speaking about, it's what Allah is saying about the object.
Mona, is it possible that Ja'alna is to make something into something else, to use existing materials and to turn it into something else? And khalaqa is to create from new, from nothing.
Okay, so you're on the right track. So basically, what the Mufassirun say is that is when Allah used Ja'ala, He's speaking about the condition of the thing. So Allah created the earth and He made it such in a condition that it's a mihad, it's flat, and people can live in there and so on. So when Allah speaks about the conditioning or the use or the purpose of something, Allah uses the word Ja'ala. And Allah, for example, Allah says, Ja'alna nawmakum subata. Allah made sleep, and the conditional purpose of sleep is to cut you off. Allah made darkness, and the conditional purpose of darkness is to cover you, and daylight is to provide you with a means of livelihood. But khalaqa is Allah, khalaqanakum azwaja. Allah is saying, I have made your essences like this. I have made all of you into pairs. You with me? Allah is not saying I have made you pairs as a means of comfort to each other. That would be like conditioning. Allah is saying, I have created you as pairs. Allah, in other words, in other things, Allah is speaking about the purpose of something. In khalaqana, Allah is speaking about the essence of something. Allah has made our essence into pairs, which is an interesting perception if you think about gender fluidity and stuff. An argument against it is the usage of Allah's khalaqanakum. We have made you into azwaj, and azwaj is like a pairing of two opposite of a male of a female, and a female. So anyway, that's another discussion. But I'm just saying that's interesting about how Allah moves to khalaqa and then back to ja'al. وجعلنا نومكم سباتا والليل لباسا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا. And then we came to verse number 12. وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا. وبنينا, what's banayna mean? What's the meaning of bina or bana?
To
Assalamu
build.
alaikum, Maulana.
It means to build. So banayna means to build or construct. So in other words, the literal meaning of banayna means when you take bricks, or you take sticks, or you take mud, or you take whatever substance you're using, and you erect something, you build something up. So that's the image that Allah is wanting us to picture, the idea of something being built above us. And when you think of something built, you think of something strong and something solid and something which is like rooted. Allah says, وَبَنَيْنَا, and we, the royal we again, we have constructed, we have built فوقكم. فوق, above, kum, above you, sab'an shidada. Sab'an, we have built above you what? 7. Sab'an, 7. Shidad. What does shidad mean? From the word shadid.
Strong
Sounds
will.
sturdy.
Strong, firm. Shidad has power. sab'an shidada. So most mufassirun says this refers to what?
The heavens.
So most mufassirun will say this refers to the 7 heavens. Although I did see a tafsir from Ibn Ashur who said that actually it refers to 7 planetary bodies. And again, I can see that's a tafsir bi ra'i. That's not a tafsir bi riwayah. You won't have a Sahaba saying that. But his opinion is that all of these, and to be honest, Ibn Ashur is one of your teacher's favorite mufassirun, myself, Muhammad, Zakaria, all of us. We love Ibn Ashur because of his analytical ability. So he has interesting reasoning. He says that all of these things are observable or not observable. Naumakum, Layla libasa, Nahara ma'asha. Observable, not observable.
Observable.
Every one of them you can see. Every one of them you can see. Then the argument is interesting. He says that why did Allah say that refer to the 7 heavens if you can't see the 7 heavens? In other words, the heaven that we see with all the stars in the universe, that's considered to be the lowest heaven. So he's saying if everything is observable, then this should also be observable. Therefore, his preferred tafsir is that this actually refers to 7 planetary bodies amongst them the sun and the moon, and he mentions that there's 7 names. So that's not going to be, again, that's an example where a mufassir goes away from dominant opinion because of his ra'i, because of his opinion, and his opinion is based within the context of the verse. But he also quotes the other view that it could refer to the 7 heavens. So he does give like homage to the other view, because that is the dominant view, and could also be in terms of it's like notional in our mind. In our mind, in other words, if we can see one of the 7, the other 6 are almost they are beyond conception, and because they are beyond conception, they are more azim or more great in our mind, if that makes sense. So that would also be an argument. So, but the main view is that's going to be the 7 heavens. Rishad, Bismillah.
Malana, I just have a question. Sometimes in Arabic, and Malana can correct me here, they use the term 7, like 70,000, as an estimate or a number. How do we know here that Allah Ta'ala is referring to a specific 7 things? Are we just interpreting?
Okay, so it's a good question because numbers in Arabic are often used, let's call it hyperbolically. Hyperbolically means they just use like in a notional meaning to mean a lot, or kathra. So the question is, how do we know that the 7 is actually 7? We do have hadith about the Prophet Mi'raj going to the 7. So that will be like circumstantial evidence that the 7 means 7. So there would be a hadith about the Prophet going to each of the 7 heavens and meeting different Prophet. So that would be an idea where you have, if I draw it for you in the air quickly, you have the word 7. Then under 7 you have, it could mean a lot or it could mean 7. Now I need circumstantial evidence to pin the 7, one of the meanings, as the dominant meaning. So if I have a hadith that clarifies, then I'm going to give more preference to that. The 7 means actual 7. Brother Abbas?
The Ibn Ashur that you mentioned, is that available in English, or do we have to first graduate?
No, it's 30 volumes in Arabic. Yeah, no, it's not available in English.
Make dua, Maulana, make dua.
Must make dua for me. I mean, it's not easy for me to read that Ibn Ashur. It's a tough read, but he's deeply analytical, mashallah. He's actually lived in the last 100 years. He was, I think, Algerian. He's a modern scholar, but the depth is astounding that he has.
So when are you going to translate it for us, Maulana?
Yeah, Rob, in the next life, inshallah. I'll just teach fa'ala and mudaf ilayhi for now. Alhamdulillah. If I ever were to do postgrad studies, I'll probably do it on that tafsir. I haven't been thinking about it, but we'll see, inshallah. Okay, so Irshad, if that makes sense, that there is circumstantial evidence to pin it down to 7.
Okay, shukran. Thanks.
Okay. فوقكم سبعا شدادا. So we have both above you these 7 strong. And again, Allah has omitted, there's no word sama there. You can see because there's no word sama, it gives breadth for different interpretations. if I were to put the word sama in there, then you have to stick to sama. But sama is taken out, and therefore there's more breadth of interpretation. وَجَعَلْنَا سِرَاجًا وَهَّاجًا. That best?
Yeah, so the fact that it's specifically left out, does it, obviously it's intentional that it could mean other stuff, I'm assuming.
Yes, so many times in the Quran, things are left out, like and then it's either left out because it's obvious. So Allah says, "Kalla saya'lamun." So normally, a ya'lamun, to know, is a transitive verb. Like you can't tell someone, "Assalamu alaikum, I know." What are you gonna ask? Or they know. You're gonna ask what? So unless the what is understood, you have to. So take a step back. Why does Allah leave things out? So Allah leaves things out. Number one is because in like concise speech, you leave out things which is obvious. Like kalla saya'lamun. They will come to know, and it's obvious that they will know about qiyamah and so on. And also you leave things out because they become wider if you leave it out. They become more vast if you leave it out in terms of the meaning, or they become more varied. So in other words, um, um, they're open to multiple interpretations. So yeah, so that's how the Quran works. Is that there's a dominant opinion, for example, this is 7 heavens, but because it's left out, there are other opinions, and that's to do with the richness of the Quran and the multiplicity of understandings of the verses. وَجَعَلْنَا سِرَاجًا وَهَّاجًا. Like even this year, we think about this year, we have made, what's the siraj? Literally speaking, what's siraj?
Lamp.
A lamp or light. This is siraj. Oh, we have made a lamp. What's the meaning of wahaj?
Burning.
So burning. So wahaj means when something emits light and heat. Something's emitting light and heat. So it's we have made this lamp brilliant. It is bright and it emits heat. What comes to your mind in terms of what that lamp is?
The sun?
The sun.
Okay, but is the sun mentioned there?
No.
Okay. So you see now because the sun isn't mentioned, it doesn't detract from the text. It actually, because the text has a certain flow and a certain like a poetic, not poetic, let's call it linguistic style. If something is, Allah could have said, وَجَعَلْنَا شَمْسًا وَهَاجًا. Allah could have said the Shamsan Wahaja, but Allah said Sirajan Wahaja. And for whatever linguistic benefits, even though it's not mentioned that it is the sun, it will be understood that it's the sun by the context. And the fact that Allah mentions Siraj and Wahaj, there's a double meaning of light. Because we have made Sirajan already means a lamp. We have made a lamp, and we have made the lamp into what? A Wahaj. Wahaj means something which emits a great amount of light and emits heat. وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ مَاءً ثَجَّاجًا. Brother Abbas, question now is coming all the time now. وَأَنزَلْنَا, we're going to see this verse again. وَأَنزَلْنَا. Bismillah. وَأَنزَلْنَا means what?
And we have sent down.
We have sent down. So those of you who are not second year, who are third year up, you should know that anzalna is on the 4th bab, which means causation. It means causation. We have sent down. Minal mu'sirat. So the mu'sirat is the interesting word I want to get to. So we go to mu'sirat. So let's go to the word together. What are the root letters of mu'sirat?
Mim, Ain, Nam, Line, sorry. Ain, Sadra.
Ain Sadra. Good. Which bab is it on? Can I ask second years? Did you do bab 2 or did you do second years?
Yes,
No,
Maulana.
Maulana.
We're starting on it. We started on it, Maulana.
Did you start on fa'ala, yufa'ilu?
Yeah, we started on that, Maulana.
Okay, good.
No.
So the one I'm referring to now is just the 4th one. So you'll get to inshallah in 3 weeks' time. Inshallah. Okay. So asara means to press or to squeeze something. That's asara. To press or to squeeze. If you go okay, I won't use this. Doesn't have a fourth bab here. But what do you think the fourth bab means if it's causation? What's a mu'sir?
A cloud,
Okay, I'm talking about linguistically. I'm saying if asara means to squeeze. What does a'sara on the fourth bab mean?
The thing that
being
is squeezing.
The thing that causes the squeezing. So the more,
Yeah.
so those of you who know the fourth bab, it's going to be a'sara yu'siru i'saran mu'sirun. So what's a mu'sirun?
The ismu fa'il.
Ismu fa'il. So how do you translate mu'sir?
The squeezer.
The squeezer. The squeezer. The mu'sir is the squeezer. Therefore, if I want to link some more words to it, you can know the word asir. Asir, you hopefully know is juice which is squeezed out, which is normally fruit juice, lemon juice, and so on. That is asir. Or you know the word asr. Asr means the time of day where the last bit of light is being squeezed out. That's the time of asr. Now we have a mu'sir. Allah is speaking about the heavens. Allah is saying, wa anzalna, and we send down min al mu'sirat. We send down from the mu'sirat ma'an, water, thajaja in great abundance. What do you think the mu'sir is? There's three tafsirs for the mu'sir. What do you think that refers to?
The cloud that it rains from, like a rain cloud.
Okay, so the one could be the rain cloud. What else can it be?
Ocean, Maulana. Ocean.
Now remember, it's sending down from, so it must be up above. So what is the thing that squeezes the rain cloud?
Water.
Water is being squeezed. Just think about Cape Town. How do we know when it's going to rain?
Wind.
The wind. So in Cape Town, what do you have? If you have is it the north, the northwest
Berg wind. Oh,
the north,
yeah,
when the
northwest.
northwesterly wind comes, it's going to bring the clouds and blow the clouds over. So many of us say that the mu'sir is actually the wind that squeezes the clouds. The rain comes from the clouds, but the mu'sir is actually the wind, because it is the thing that's blowing the clouds together and compacting them until they burst forth in rain. Are you with me? So again, here we don't have the word and we have sent down from the heavens rain, water, and we have sent down from the clouds water. We have sent down min al mu'sir, from the squeezer. So some ulama will say that the mu'sir is referring to the winds that compress the clouds and causes rain to come down. Some ulama say no, that the mu'sir actually refers to the clouds themselves. And the third opinion is that the mu'sir refers to the whole sky as the heavens actually. So all of those are actually referring to the same phenomena of rain coming down. It's just how do you pin down what mu'sir means? There is room for different opinions and room for different approaches and different tafsirs on it. And we have sent down min al mu'sir, but it's a very beautiful descriptive word. Like you take a lemon and you squeeze the lemon and the water comes down. And remember, this obviously is a pre-modern text. In other words, it's before modern science. It's a very clear, descriptive way of explaining rain that we have sent down from al-mu'sir, something which is squeezing above, compressing, compacting, and squeezing above. Once it's being squeezed, we have ma'an, we have water, which is thajjajan. What does thajjaj mean? Anybody? One's supposed to look up those words?
Abundant. Would it be to like flow abundantly?
It means to come down abundantly, to pour in, to come down in a great amount. Let me see if there's anything else here. To come down in a great amount. Let me just take away this thing quickly. This thing is blocking my screen here. I can't even see what I'm typing. Okay. Anyway, it means I can't type in here. Anyway, let's go back here.
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. Sorry on that. Could possible mu'asir? I mean, this is just a reflection now. It's not necessarily just my own thoughts, but I mean the malaika that Allah has given the tasks to do the different duties. I mean, the unseen basically could also refer to some of those things, or is that not necessarily in the sense of dunyawi phenomena.
Yeah, so basically, to substantiate the view like that, someone would have to produce a hadith um, that links the angels and rain and pressing, if you know what I mean. Because a lot of tafsir is about, let's call it, triangulation. Like I have a verse and I have other text, and I'm bring all text together to make a coherent meaning. So if there were hadith that speak about angels who are overseeing rain and there's some element of squeezing, it could then be a possible tafsir. But obviously, our first stop is always to go through the tafsir body itself. We don't really jump to, like, our own things first. So it's normally like in the order of, I would check riwayah first. What do all the classical views say? Then I'll say ra'i. What do all the dominant scholars of tafsir say? And then lastly, you add your own reflection, if you know what I mean. But if you're adding own reflection, you have to substantiate your own reflection with the same methodology of tafsir. If that makes sense.
Yes, shukran.
وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا, and we have sent down من المعصر, from the mu'sir, from the squeezes, referring to the wind and the clouds and that whole phenomena. ماء, water. ثجاجا, it is thajjaj, it is flowing abundantly. لنخرج به حبا ونباتا. Second years, if you're learning Mazid fi, just make sure you learn the fourth bab the best, because the fourth bab is the most common bab. Okay, what's happening with the word linukhrija? That's kharaja, yakhruju. Sorry, not kharaja. On the fourth bab, akhraja, yukhriju. What does akhraja, yukhriju mean?
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. Could it be to bring forth something?
Yes, so kharaja means to go out, and akhraja on the fourth bab means to cause something to go out or to bring forth something. What does the li mean?
It's to give reason, so in order to.
Okay, that li is called lamut ta'lil. So second years is probably new for you, but it's good to learn now. That li there is going to be called lam mutta'lil. I'll just put the name here quickly, you can see it. Lam at-ta'lil. Ta'lil comes from the word illa, and the word illa means to give a reason. So the lam with the kasra that comes before a verb is the lam of giving a reason. In other words, why did Allah send down ma and tajaja li? In order to nukhrija, so that we, Allah, we may bring forth, we may cause to exit. Bihi, what's the bihi mean? What does it refer to?
The rain.
So the ha goes back to ma. Ha goes back to ma. The nukhrija, in order, lam, nukhrija, we, Allah, we are able to bring forth, be, with, or via, he, it, referring to the water. What are we able to bring forth with it? Habba wa nabata. Hab, what's hab mean?
Is that the grain, Maulana? Grain or seed or something?
So hab is grains, or plural of habba. Habba is one grain. So habban is going to be grains or seed. Like grains or seeds you normally plant or you crush them for flour. Those are grains, and like wheat or barley or any of those things. And what's nabat?
Vegetation or plants.
Okay, vegetation and plants. In other words, like all the ones where you eat the leaves and the stalks and so on. So like your lettuce and your parsley and your spinach and any greenery where you eat the greenery, because some plants you eat the hab, you eat the seed, and you harvest the seed and you crush it and you use the seed. In other plants you eat the leaves or the stalks of it. So it's going to be your nabata. So we have sent down from the squeezes, from the clouds, rain, water in abundance, linukhrija, so that we may bring forth bihi, via it, habban wa nabata, seeds and greenery, wa jannatin alfafa, and Jannat, which is Al-Fafa. What does Al-Fafa mean? What does Jannat mean, first of all?
Gardens.
Gardens. Give me another word with Jim, Noon that has the same word, the same root letters.
Jinn.
Jinn. And then another one. I gave you, I told the class about this before. 2-3 years ago. Majnoon also. What does Majnoon mean? Majnoon means someone who is mad, someone who's lost their mind. So what did I say? The link between Jannah, a garden, jinn, unseen creatures, and Majnoon, someone who's mad. What's the link between all three? Don't you guys remember?
Is a barrier or covering.
So Sabia remembers, mashallah. Sabra, was your birthday lately? Was this Sabra's birthday? Okay, mashallah. Well, Allah bless you with all the khair and barakah. I saw your friends posting about you. So mashallah. And it was nice to see also your friends posting a nice Mizan picture from many years ago where you all met. So may Allah grant you all the khair and barakah and give you friends that will walk the path of Quran with you. Allahu Ameen. Alhamdulillah. I'm always happy to see bonds that form within Mizan and people who have same interests come together. Okay, good. So the word Jannah means to cover something or to conceal something. So the word on the first bab, Jannah yajunnu, means to cover something or to conceal something. So the word Jannah, a garden, is only called a garden because the ground, the soil is covered with greenery. That's why it's called Jannah, because it's a covered place. And a jinn is called a jinn because they are covered from our vision. You can't see them, they are covered. And Majnun is someone who is not whose senses, whose rationality has been covered. So all of them have been covered. So Allah says, "Wajannatin." In other words, gardens. In other words, places that are covered. So don't think of garden. Also think of places that are covered, that are lush, that you can't see the ground anymore. And Allah says, "Al-fafa." Al-fafa. What does al-fafa mean? Again, we go back to the dictionary. The dictionary really is going to be your friend for all of these things. What does the word laffa mean? It means to?
Like thick or something. I don't know, maybe thickness.
Okay, so let's go to the verb. So when looking up al-fafa, you go to the verb first. The word laffa means to wrap and to roll and to wind around, to twist, to envelop, to cover. So how is it linked to a garden? What type of garden is this?
Like overgrown. Growth of the covering the garden.
Where the foliage is thick.
The foliage is thick and the plants are growing into each other and it's just growing, like like you leave a forest to grow, it just grows, it intertwines basically. A garden where everything is intertwined. Allah says, and we have sent down the rain to produce the seeds and the vegetation and gardens, which are al-fafa from the word laffa, the word lafif, that they're all intertwined and growing into each other. Okay, we're gonna pause. We're gonna stop in a second now. Just last quick reflection. That is the end of that chapter. Why? Because not that chapter, that theme. Why? Because the next theme is about what? Inna yawm al-fasli kana miqata. What's Allah speaking about here then? Inna,
judgment.
The day of separation, it is an appointment. So we moved from Amma yatasa'alun anin naba il azim. We moved from questioning the day of judgment to Allah said they will certainly come to know, into theme number 2, which was the ayat Allah is giving you, into theme number 3, which is going to be back to the description of Qiyamah. So for homework, I'm going to ask you, and some deep reflection inshallah, How are all of these ayat evidence linked to resurrection? So you can think of them in a general way. Yes, the ayat of Allah's power and His qudra, but specific things with specific examples Allah has given you in this set of ayat are directly linked to Qiyamah. So just think about that. Which specific things in here? We already mentioned last week. We mentioned what? Naum as being the small death, and that waking up as being the new life. That's an example of a direct link between the ayah and Qiyamah. So again here, start thinking about, read the next few verses inshallah. If you can read from verse number 17 until if you can prepare until, I don't know how far we'll probably get until 26 probably, 26. So from 17 until 26 you can read. And then the idea is, how do you link theme number 2, the ayat of Allah, to theme 1 and 3, which are both linked to Qiyamah? What individual examples are there that are all linked to each other? Okay. Any questions before we close?
Just a comment, Maulana.
Yes.
I just found something very interesting with Nabata, the verb Nabata. It's almost like the dots is almost like it's to grow. So it's almost like putting a seed, planting it with the bar underneath, and then you get 2 dots for the ta. So it's like growing.
Okay. Yes, you know what the ulama call that? The
No,
ulama
Maulana.
call the ulama call it milh. Milh. What does milh mean? Milh means salt.
No idea, Maulana. Salt.
They mean salt, yes. So basically, like certain phenomena, they milh means almost like they're not the food of the Quran. They're not like the substance of the meaning. They're just like spice which you can enjoy. If you know what I mean. It's not like a tafsiri
Yes,
thing. You know what I
Maulana.
mean? It's not
So
like a
marinate.
view. Yeah, it's not like a view or tafsir that it's just those kind of things, like almost like la tajru wajatun wisra ukhra. All the letters are not joined together and all that stuff. Those things are more what they call milh. They're just like they're for seasoning. So one, like, you look at them, but you don't attach too much importance to them, if it makes sense. Because sometimes people can go off onto paths, like, some people into the numbers in the Quran, 19, all that number stuff can make them but yamaka after a while. Yeah, there was a guy in the US. He had this theory about the Quran 19, and everything worked out in the Quran except 2 verses. So because the 2 verses of Quran didn't fit into his theory, he said those 2 verses are not from Quran. Because it didn't fit into his 19 theory. So as a real guy, he came up with this theory. Naima, are you off mute or?
Remalina, can I just
Bismillah.
see with regard to the homework? You said we must read 17 to 26, and you want us to link. Tell us how the ayah are linked to Qiyamah. When you say the ayah linked to Qiyamah, you're talking about from 1 to 16.
No, from verse number 6 to 16.
6
so
to
all the ones about ayat, about the earth and the land and the sleep and the rain, all of those natural phenomena. How are the natural phenomena an argument or a linkage to Qiyamah? Because remember, 1 to 5 is about Qiyamah, and 17 onwards is about Qiyamah. So 6 to 16 is in between. So there must be a logical link between the sections. Okay. Once we read it in a thematic way, you're going to find there's going to be a deeper meaning in the ayat beyond just the direct translation. Okay, so Brother Munir also, how can you look up the word alfafa? Alfafa in the dictionary is going to be under laffa. Laffa. So la fa fa. So alfafa is going to be la fa fa. So you're going to find it under laffa. And then see here's laffa, because la fa fa. And then from there, you're going to find alfafa somewhere in here. You'll find alfafa somewhere here. I'm not sure if Answer always has this stuff, but definitely I'm sure that this dictionary at the bottom here will have it. Lane's lexicon. But la fa fa is where you find it. If you ever want to know the root letters, you can go to quranhive.com. I'll show you a shortcut quickly. And my last thing before I close, you go to quranhive.com, which is here, and you go over any word. So you put your mouse over any word here. I shouldn't teach you all the shortcuts, but anyway, make your life easy. And when you put your mouse over this, can you see that it says the la fa fa? So it gives you the root letters. So by the manera, you know every root letter in the Quran now, it has it there. If you just put your mouse over it. Okay.
That's brilliant. Shukran so much.
Okay, I know that it's hard sometimes with these words. Okay, Barakallah, may Allah bless and protect. And Sister Sabira, enjoy your birthday, mashallah. And all of you, inshallah, Allah keep you safe and your family safe, inshallah. And we'll see you next week, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikum salam
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Shukran.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.